Hello, my friends, and welcome. It's John Petersen from the Arlington Institute, and this is What's Up. This is the bi-weekly program where Greg, Braden, and I get together and just chat for half an hour about whatever's on our minds, and we're happy to have you with us. We do this, like I say, every 2 weeks, and Greg's about to run out of town, so we grabbed him quickly before he did that. And hello, Greg. What's up?
Hey, John, it's good to see you. And as always, I'm looking forward to whatever happens here. I think our audience probably knows by now it's completely unscripted. So
Yes.
we have no idea what's going to happen when the two of us get together, and that makes it fun and exciting every time.
Well, one thing that's going to happen is that you're going to be here in Berkeley Springs on the 10th of September for our transition talks. And we're really looking forward to that. And all of our viewer friends can certainly find out information about that at transitiontalks.org. And so there's the pitch. What have you been thinking about? What's on your
You
mind?
know, John, there's so much going on, and it's easy to jump into the specifics of whether we're talking about global finances or war and peace, trust, which is a conversation we had in our last What's Up. But what I'm really seeing, I am preparing for a trip, and I have a routine. Before I prepare for the trip, I'm probably more connected with my community than at any other time because I go out into the community to go shopping. I do all my own shopping for the things I need, including food. I go to the local co-op, to the CVS, to the Walgreens, and that's where you really connect with, the salt of the earth people in the community that don't often travel out of town, let alone out of state or out of the country. And I get to connect with them. And what I'm finding, John, is we all know the world is changing. But what I'm finding is that we have already changed. My
Yeah.
community has changed. They are different than they were. And it's not just about COVID. COVID was maybe the catalyst that began some of the change. But what I'm finding is that people are, as we mentioned, they're so overwhelmed with the magnitude of the change that we've never been prepared as a society to embrace the magnitude of change within the compressed period of time that we have right now. And that is a form of stress. And that stress is impacting children, it's
Sure.
impacting families, it's impacting, on many levels. And so what people are doing is the only thing they know how to do, and that is going back to what they know is true, what they know is safe, and what they know works in their lives across the board, whether it's finances or food for the family, education for the kids. Uh, they have already changed, and we all know that the change in the world is just beginning. So this is what I'm seeing in my community.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting point because in confronted with change like that, that's the natural inclination to go back to what's familiar, what's worked in the past. There's an interesting wrinkle to it this time, I'd argue, and that is that what's happened in the past isn't going to necessarily work very well in the world that's coming up. And so it's a combination of kind of mining the essence of who we are from what we have known, but there's kind of a leaning forward aspect of this that's got to be there. How do you become this new human? How do you get into this new kind of world? It's uh what's his name, Boulder, used to say, it's a holon. It's holonic. It includes and transcends. And so this movement has got to, Ken Wilber, this
Ah,
movement has got to include those essence, the important components, but it transcends into some new space. And so that's a very active kind of aspect of what needs to happen here, I think.
yeah, well, I agree, John. When I say go back, it's not necessarily go back to what was happening pre-COVID. It's going back to the fundamentals of family and society. Uh,
Yeah.
Let me just give you a perfect example. A friend of, I'm coming to you from our studio just outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's a rural community. And a friend of mine here was a builder of beautiful homes. green construction, grew his business to the largest it had ever been. And through circumstances, the housing industry ground to a halt, and he couldn't take care of his employees. He lost his business, and he was on the verge of losing everything. And rather than freaking out in fear, he began to ask himself, what do people really need? And he knew that people need water, they need food. So the way he tells the story, he went to sleep one night, he had a dream, he bolted up about 3 o'clock in the morning out of a deep sleep. And he had a vision. He got up and he drew this vision out for creating self-heating, self-watering, raised gardens that were modular and scalable. They could be anywhere from 12 inches square to fit on a window ledge in a high rise in New York to 4 feet by 8 feet. And you can string 2 or 3 of those together if you've got the space and the land to do that. And he began building those. Bottom line, John, his business is more successful now than his housing business. Yeah. He's hired more people. He now has franchised the business. He's gone international. He can ship the kits because people feel that they want to have some degree of self-reliability and sustainability when it comes to their food. So we have 3 of these side by side, 4 by 8. And an enclosure, it's called a coyote fence, that literally keeps coyotes and other animals out at night. So they're covered with different coverings for different seasons, and they will grow year round, self-heating, self-watering. So I was out of the country. My wife and I were out of the country. It was December of 2019. We were in Mexico doing conferences. And we came back in January, and my wife said to me, she goes, I'm afraid to go out and look at the garden because I'm sure everything is dead. It's been sub-zero temperatures, just a mess. She went out and opened these things up, and it was overflowing with lush green kale, many different kinds of kale, different kinds of lettuce. We have broccoli that was growing out there. And man, I mean, you ever need the sales pitch for a garden that's sustainable? We hadn't touched it. We hadn't touched it for almost 90 days, and it continued to work. But that's an example of the man's name is Ken. And what Ken did was he went back to the basics of what he knew, but he applied it to, rather than building homes, he applied it to something more fundamental that people need in their lives. And I'm seeing people do this.
Well, it's a wonderful story, and it kind of illuminates an underlying kind of concept underneath the thing that I think is going to be very important in the coming years. And that is, all of these kind of events get pushed into our lives that disrupt the kind of the status quo should be looked at as these opportunities to disconnect from the constraints that have kind of held us all down and give us the latitude to start to think creatively like this about new things and new ways and other such things. Otherwise, you don't do that. You don't get there because you get comfortable and and you do the things that are really good. And so you really need to look at all these things as amazing kind of opportunities. I mean, that should be the first thing every time I think something comes in my life. The first thing I think about is, what's this trying to tell me? What should I do differently? Why didn't that work? I mean, where can I go now, or something like that?
Oh, John, I couldn't agree more. I think this is the gift. We have the greatest opportunity for ideas to be accepted in our world and in our lives, our societies, our communities right now, that we have in my entire lifetime. When everything's all buttoned up and locked down and everything's working like a well-lubricated machine, it's difficult to introduce new ideas because people don't see the need for the new ideas.
Well, that's the problem with this whole thing, is because we get encrusted. We get we're driven, the whole system, whether it's religion or families or education or government or everything, are trying through fear to constrain us in fundamental kind of ways and keep us on the track, like that young man was in the Air Force, and make sure that he doesn't waver too far from off of the track. And the essence of this transition to this new world is to disconnect from those, to see ourselves as individuals and powerful and extraordinarily capable and not requiring all of that. There's a kind of corollary. There's an interim kind of aspect of that that says, how do you get from here to where we need to go and still take advantage of the technology that we all are dependent upon and not let it kind of capture us in the whole process. So,
John, I agree. It's hard to see it when you're in it
yeah,
because we're so close to it. But 30 years from now, 50 years from now, people will look back at this little window in history and say, wow, this is the generation that had to walk between two different worlds,
yeah.
a world that's collapsing, but we're still using it, a world that's emerging, but it's not complete. And it takes a very special and very special person and a unique set of skills to be able to navigate without getting lost in the fear of the uncertainty. And that's why these conversations are important because when people hear that, and I've seen this in my live audiences, they'll say, yeah, I never thought about it that way. But if you don't hear that, the suicide rates are sky high.
No, I know.
And young people, when I talk to young people, John, they're living their lives as if there is no tomorrow.
Yeah.
They're not planning. They can't see a future because there's nothing in the narrative that offers them any hope for a future. And so when you don't see a future, you live your life very, very differently.
Well, you're making the point again in a different way about that you're being driven into this space where you're going to have to make decisions, and that it's going to either be a decision that is dominated or the narrative that is communicated by all of the forces, the technologies, and other kinds of things that are all built around control. How do you control and increasingly control? And on the other hand, this new track that you and I and so many good people are interested in is full of opportunity. I mean, when in the history of humanity have we ever had a chance to build a new world? I mean, this is amazing. And you kind of got to see it in those kind of terms and realize that that this is not just everything going to hell in a handbasket, which some of it certainly seems to be doing, but it's breaking the thing loose. It's childbirth almost kind of thing that opens up the possibility into a whole new space that's full of light and opportunity and peace and all kinds of things. This is a big freaking deal. This is really neat.
It is, John, and the science supports it. When you step back and you look at cycles and
Yeah.
systems of the past, we have to go through this change because the cycles are converging in our lifetimes. And that tells me it's no accident that we're here. We signed up for this on a conscious or an unconscious level. I made a conscious choice to come to Transitions in September, and we're gonna talk about this and so much more. So it's a very different way of looking at the world, and I think it's a healthy way, John. And I really appreciate all that you do and the Arlington Institute and everybody that supports you. And I'm honored to share that journey with you. So thank you. Well, that's what we have the opportunity to do when I come to Transitions in just a few weeks, and it will be available for people that can't be there in person as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think it is important for as many people as possible to participate. And the beautiful thing, John, everybody learns differently, and everyone learns at different rates. And there's some people that will pick up bits and pieces of our conversation, and it will really trigger something. And there are other people that, they'll say, that's not for me, but then they'll hear something else
Yeah.
that triggers them because we all learn differently through different words, different ideas, different concepts, depending upon our indoctrination. And we've all been indoctrinated through culture and family and society. So that's what makes it such an interesting time. When I was a kid, I told my mom I was on the 200-year plan. I said I would live on Earth for 200 years. And she used to laugh at me because of that. And as she got older, and she had advanced dementia. And the last time I saw her was near my birthday. She said, I would wish you happy birthday. She said, but I know you're on the 200-year plan, so I've got plenty of time to do that because it's the old memories that she remembered that from when I was a kid. She didn't know my name, But she remembered I was on the 200-year plan, and now when I think about it, I would love to be here and see all these changes
Yeah.
and see the fruition of all the energy and the effort and the dreams that we have all envisioned to build a better
Well,
life and a better
even
world.
more than that, bring the kind of the wisdom that comes from all of those years and years and decades of experience into play into that new space. I mean, I think about it all the time. I've for decades said I was going to live 140 to 150, and that's because I was kind of mostly looking at the technology,
Yeah.
but everything is coming together. I think it's completely possible.
Well, bump it up another 50 years, and we'll meet on the 200-year anniversary, and we'll
Yeah.
see how we're doing.
Well, we'll have another WhatsApp
That's what we'll do.
conversation. We can
That's what
try
we'll
to
do.
figure out if we know who we are and where we're going. We're going up then by then.
All right.
Well, we're about out of time here, and it's always fun to talk to you, my friend. And we'll come back and we'll do it again in another couple of weeks. We're going to do it in here in Berkeley Springs, and it's going to be a wonderful time. And again, I'd suggest to our viewers that the 10th of September is going to be a really special day here, and then it's going to be live stream, so it doesn't make any difference where you are. You can participate in this whole wonderful day, and we hope that you'll do that. And so, thanks, Greg, again.
Thank you so much, John, for a beautiful conversation. Like I said, we never know where it's going to go, and I'm always happy that it goes where it does. So thank you.
Thanks. Take care.